Museum of Human Goals presents
Portrait of Contemporary.
My name is Albert Valente. We all appreciate beauty. The media world is just everywhere. Birds of a feather flock together. I think it's a triangle. My book is Lives of the Eminent Art Dealers. Thank you for having me, Nadia. And my name is Albert Valente. I grew up here in lovely Florida, and I started working in the art industry when I was probably 18 years old, when I was volunteering in the art fairs here in Palm Beach. I then moved to working in museums, in the Norton Museum of Art, went to school over here and also in New York. And then in New York, that's where I met you.
Yeah, 10 years, almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was, with my experience in museums over here and the art fair, I started working in the galleries in New York, exploring the art market there. And then during the pandemic, I moved to Miami. And then I did some training in Lisbon, Portugal. My family background is Brazilian, Portuguese. So it was a way for me to explore a European country, one that I speak the language fluently. And then I came back here to the States, and I'm working as a freelancer now, both in the primary market and the secondary market.
So your work, your job now as a dealer, right?
Dealer, also with promotions, administration, logistics, behind the scenes,
Yeah, so
putting the show behind the scenes.
it's most important and interesting question for the people who is not too in art and people who is in art field. So the artists and collectors, who is a person who are middle between the artist and
The buyer.
The buyer, yeah.
Exactly.
And this is your book about.
Right. My book is Lives of the Eminent Art Dealers. I took the title from the famous book by Giorgio Vasari, Lives of the Eminent Painters and Sculptors, where he talks about all the famous painters. It's a art history book, but it's an art history chronological from the perspective of dealers. So we start in the Medici time, and we go all the way to the 21st century. And each biography is about 5, 6, 7 pages, 4 pages for some of them. But it's many dealers. Mm-hmm. And we go through the different centuries, the different decades in different countries. And there's a lot of overlap. But we basically see where the artwork was moving to, who was buying it, who were these dealers spending time with, who are these artists, how did they get to know each other, and you see the history of art from this much more intimate perspective.
It's so interesting, it's so inspiring. And this knowledge gives us inspiration to understand that most people know each other. I mean, the most talented people, how come, I don't know, but they know each other in the different
Yes.
in the different times.
Yes.
You can see it and you can read it in the art history books.
Yeah, I mean, birds of a feather flock together.
Absolutely. What is common between the people who is support artists, who is choosing what the character? I mean, it's like a part of their character, part of their vision. What's common between all of these people who support, buy, and promote art?
I know. They all appreciate beauty.
It's all about beauty.
Not necessarily about beauty, but it's about the appreciation of art in general. It could be a beautiful work of art, like that very famous painting by Botticelli, the Venus, right? The Birth of Venus. But it could be also a painting of like hell, honestly, like Hieronymus Bosch, The Garden of Earthly Delights. It's somebody who is attached to a story, to a passionate description in the visual realm, in the visual medium. So sculptor, a sculptor is creating a beautiful statue, but it could create a very like gruesome, dark statue. But it's emotional, it's powerful, and both the artist has this passion, the intermediary has this passion, and the collector, whether he's a king or a bishop or a businessman or businesswoman, they have this passion for the beautiful, for the powerful, for the grand.
I absolutely 100% agree with you, with little exception. Even it's not exception, it's like a question. Is it the same now?
Yes, I would say it is the same now. With the way that's different today is that our media system is just so intense that we have more media than we ever had in the history of humanity. Everybody can create media now. And so, in order to have certain art be promoted, talked about, explained, show to people, you have to go through a lot more digging. You have to push yourself more because the media world is just everywhere.
What about the scandal artist? For example, when you're talking about the beauty, there is a beauty which you can't doubt. So it's beautiful and everyone can see. But when you go into the Art Basel and see 7 show, you can choose and you remember from these thousands of artists something which is maybe not so beauty, or maybe it has some kind of silliness, or some kind of, as you told, through the media, the scandal artist is more celebrated. This.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Like Maurizio Cattelan's Banana, the Joker. That was the name of the piece that Perrotin exhibited. I think a lot of artwork like that, and Jeff Koons as well, a lot of artwork like that is very helpful for the media. It helps the media more than it helps the network of art professionals and art collectors, because that's really who benefits the most out of it. The way people talk about art today, it's so different than how they talked about it, let's say, 200 years ago, 1820s, for example. Because also of the limited amount of media. Everything was in print, there was the printing press and the factory and all that. And so if you like art, you have to buy the right magazine. It was like that not that long ago.
Is it people buying the magazines now?
No.
Who is buying the magazines now?
There are some. Juxtapose magazine is a great magazine for contemporary art. It's a great magazine, and you can find it in Barnes and Nobles. But it's a medium that is for a much more dedicated clientele, and a lot of people who are on the digital platforms, they have to they could look at art in it, but there's so much other things. There's people dancing, there's dogs videos, there's cats, there's alligators, there's everything. There's fashion. It's everything. So, for you to focus solely on art, on these platforms you can't. And not that long ago, the people who appreciate art in the United States, in Britain, France, whatever, they would buy a magazine, or they would subscribe to a museum or some organization, and the museum or whatever organization would give them a newsletter every month or bi-weekly. They receive something in the mail. Oh, look, they have this show, and look what's going on in Paris. It's a physical subscription. It was like that for a long time.
So the dealers is people who is taking their, I'm not going to say that taking care, they're not taking care, they're looking for some kind of new things, or they're collecting something which is their interest or client interest?
What they do is well, there's, just to separate here, there's two types of dealer, two types of market: the primary market and the secondary market. And most of the dealers in my book are in both, right? They're in both of those markets. The primary market dealing with living artists, and the secondary market dealing with old masters, painters who already died, as antiques. And a lot of these dealers have successful careers because they work in both. They work in both of these markets. When it comes to the one interesting, for a decent amount of time in my book, a lot of it is focusing on all the artwork that's leaving Italy, right? Because Italy, we have Venice, Rome, Florence, Lucca, Genova, all these many beautiful cities that flourish in the 15th century, in the early 16th century. And then later, as these other countries are growing, you start seeing people who are interested in buying art. And a lot of Italian dealers are like, oh, nobody's buying art in Italy. We're going to have to take this to France. We're going to have to take this to Germany. We're going to have to take this to Britain. And so that's why you see in a lot of collections outside of Italy, a lot of these Renaissance and Baroque masters. It comes from the dealers, both Italian dealers and non-Italian dealers, who were based in Italy, bringing this artwork to people who can buy it. Either they ship them out, or somebody comes in, writes about it, does a sketch about it, because there was no photography back then, sends it back to the patron, they look at the sketch, okay, I like this painting, let me buy it. And then the artwork leaves Italy. So you have that with Titian, you have that with Veronese, you have that with Michelangelo, you have that with everybody.
And also the gifts.
And also the gifts.
The gifts make the names.
That's right, that's right.
And there is a most important things which I recognize also in the books, that a lot of gifts came from the Europe all over the world as a gifts and brings a name for the artist. And actually the book Thothby, Breakfast with Thothby, showing the all details. I think that all artists have to read this book. I think so, because it's showing how the collector collects their art, how the dealer collects the art for collector. What's the perspective of it?
That's right. There's one dealer I talk about in my book, Hendrik von Wielenberg. He was Rembrandt's main dealer in Amsterdam. And there was one very beautiful deal he closed. When the English king got restored to England, Charles II, the Netherlands, was a very rich country at the time, had colonies and all that, Suriname, Indonesia, Dutch East India Company. England was still kind of getting back in its feet after a civil war. And the way the Netherlands, one of the diplomatic exchanges that the Netherlands has with England, with Charles II, is this enormous gift of paintings and sculptures. Some of the paintings are older, by older painters that already died, but a handful of them are by living artists, And it's a way to show England, that the Netherlands is doing, look, we know you appreciate beauty, we know you appreciate art, our two countries have worked with each other in the past, take this gift. And I think the total price was around £60,000, which, goes into £60,000 in 1660. So that's around, it's like in the millions today.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And then we have other examples of how these gifts are exchanged. Another very important deal was between a Venice-based dealer, Daniel Nice, and the father of James II, Charles I, the father of Charles the father of Charles II was Charles I. He purchased artwork from the Gonzaga collection, right? And again, what he does is the deal goes that the dealer will buy the collection for much cheaper, and then he will sell it to the king, the king of England,
Full collection.
the full collection. Because if the king of England, if the dealer goes, if Daniel Nice, this famous art dealer, tells this Italian duke, the king of England wants to buy your artworks, the duke would say, okay, I'm going to charge a lot of money because he's a king. So what they do is, they have the dealer buy the artwork, buy the collection for much less money, and then he sells it to the king.
It makes sense. It makes sense. For example, what is your opinion? With your knowledge, there is 3 points of view why people buy art. So the first one, because about the beauty. The second one, because about the investment.
That's right.
The third one, because about there is a ticket to the club. So when you have some artist, which is in collection of the high collectors, high names of collectors, it means you can enter to the club. Sotheby's, Christie's.
Yes. One example of that in the last century was Julian Levy, who, he was the first dealer in the U.S. to really bring surrealism to the U.S. So this was in the 1930s, the period of Franklin Roosevelt, and the interwar years, which I'm still working on and gathering data. The interwar years is such a fascinating period between World War I and World War II. 1920s, 1930s. It's just, Americans, Britons, and French people, Italians just crisscrossing the Atlantic. The American collection grows a lot. And we have people like Peggy Guggenheim, Julian Levy, Paul Rosenberg, all these people who work with the American market and the European market. And that's where we get, this link in between the 2 world wars that would eventually make New York City and Los Angeles,
Soho, yeah.
So the reputable cities that they are today. Because there are people looking to get into that club. They see surrealism and they say, wow, we don't have anything like that here. I want to get into that club.
Is it working now?
Yes, it is.
So it's the same. What do you think now is more actual? First, second, or third motivation for buying art? Beauty, investment, or ticket?
I think it's a triangle. I think with some dealers it's more about investment. With other dealers it's more about beauty, and with collectors. With some collectors, they care more about the money they can get. With other collectors, they care because they actually love the artwork. And with other ones, it's because they want to have prestige.
Artwork or artist?
For the person who appreciates beauty, it's the artwork in itself.
No name.
The name is important, but not as important as the work itself. So, let's say they want to buy somebody who likes, for example, Peter Paul Rubens. He has all these enormous, beautiful paintings of just animals and horses. If somebody really likes the painting of, let's say, Daniel and the lions, they like the story in the Bible, they relate to this character, and they see this painting by Rubens and they're like, oh, I have to have this. I love this. Yes, it's nice that it's Peter Paul Rubens, but what they really care about is the image itself, is how the painting is done, how the story is told. And you always had this. You always had this way of doing things. It started becoming a little bit more about investment in the 1700s, when you had the rise of auction houses, the rise of catalogs, and very importantly, the rise of provenance. Of the registration of provenance. Before that, nobody cared about
who buy, who sell. Yeah.
Right. When we start getting provenance, that's when the art industry becomes more mature, so to speak, because it becomes this the painting or sculpture becomes very valuable because of its previous collectors. Who owned this piece? Where was it? This artist, is very prestigious. So there's a little bit of a divorce there from what the artwork actually is. And there's a lot of controversy with that. Because if we like art, shouldn't we be liking the art, not so much the reputation of the painter? But you'll always kind of see this. You'll always see it's a market like any other.
Yeah. We mostly come to the Christies.
Yes. I recently did a biography on James Christie. I published a piece of it on my Substack. And James Christie is very fascinating because he establishes his auction house in 1766, and Britain was, becoming very strong commercially, politically. And he's just really much, the more you think about it, he's very much in the right place at the right time. He's hanging out with Thomas Gainsborough, with David Garrick, who's a famous actor in London. That's another thing about Christie. He was a very social man. He was a socialite.
Connection. As we start this conversation, it's connection.
Honestly, when the more you think about it, a lot of artists prefer to hang out with dealers than they prefer to hang out with collectors. There's something that the dealer has, the art dealer, the gallery owner, that a lot of buyers don't actually have. The intermediary, he's a dealer. He can speak to both the collectors and the artists. Obviously, there are artists that sell directly to the collector and collectors that speak directly with artists. That has always been the case. That is a Fragonard, for example, right? In the same time period as Christie's, sells directly to the buyers. But Christie, James Christie, is creating a spectacle.
First, because it's two. The son also James Christie.
Yeah, James Christie Sr.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the one that makes auctioneering like a show. He's very loud, he's funny, and he makes jokes, and he's also very handsome too, apparently. There was even some material talking about how all the ladies loved Christie. He was charming. And having that as an auctioneer when you're selling paintings is incredible. One of his best deals was selling the collection of one of the previous prime ministers, Robert Walpole, to Catherine the Great in Russia. And that collection is in the Hermitage Museum today. So, beautiful collection of Italian masters and Dutch and Flemish paintings were in the collection of the British Prime Minister. He died. His grandson came to him, we need to sell this. And Christie says, okay, let's get in touch. And the Russian ambassador, the Russian ambassador to the UK was there, sent the information to Catherine the Great. Catherine the Great agreed on the price, and the deal closed. Under the table, of course, because part of the situation was that people were a little bit skeptical about having these artworks. The British public were skeptical about having these artworks leave Britain to go to Russia, to go to St. Petersburg. And you still see this today. You still see this dialogue today when, let's say, a Chinese billionaire acquires a certain piece by a French or Italian artist or whatever, and that piece goes to China, and let's say the billionaire dies, and okay, I'm going to donate it to the museum. So now this beautiful European artwork is in the Beijing Museum of Fine Arts. It's not that different than how it happened in the last century, 2 centuries, 3 centuries ago.
It's the same.
Always been this way.
Yeah. So there is investment and there is a ticket. So Sotheby, Christie, all this auction house. Now, I don't remember how exactly it sounds in Latin. Fun and wine.
Okay.
So he made this club.
Yeah.
He made this club for fun and wine.
Without a doubt.
For some kind of high-level people. And it still works like this.
Right. One important thing that I learned from my research is that many of the buyers of these painters are other painters. Art people love art.
Absolutely.
you know? So when a certain painter like Peter Paul Rubens or Rembrandt or Francois Boucher in the 1700s, or Jacques-Louis David, remember, he's a painter, and then he starts working for Napoleon. He becomes powerful. He has money. So when a certain painter or artist becomes established and they have more money, they buy paintings from other painters. They start their own collection. And these artists that are able to get a lot of money help other artists. They help younger artists. They help struggling artists. And that's part of the network as well. It's not so much that it's a lord and the lord also loves art. Oftentimes, it's also that artists are buying other artists. Once they have the money, once they have a patrimony or something, a lot of times they help each other out. And the dealer says, okay, well, if this painter is buying this other painter, I guess there's something important about this other painter, this younger painter. I'll take him into my gallery. I'll take him into my show. Let's see how he does or she does, you know? So, yeah. Also, a lot of dealers marry an artist. A lot of dealers, start out as artists and then they don't do really well. I guess, they're not the best artists. So they become dealers.
I also heard this idea that people who has money but they are not creative, they want to leave their name in the art history to support artists as a collector. Like when you have own collection, you have the list of the talents on it. It means you're like some kind of own.
Yeah, people say that Peggy Guggenheim was kind of like that.
Yes,
She
exactly.
had a lot of money. Her family was quite wealthy, and I don't think she liked a lot of the things about her life. I mean, she had the opportunity to collect books and prints and all these things and really explore the world. And she loved art so much that she gave her life, she devoted her life to helping the artists of her
She
time.
knows all of these artists. Mostly, she knows all of them.
She knows a lot of them.
Yeah.
She knows all of them. She's hanging out with them. She's drinking with them. She's
Yes.
getting drunk with them.
Yes, this is
Okay.
about connection. This is about connection.
They
We
love
need
her.
connection.
They love her, and she loves them. So often, a lot of times, these dealers are kind of a tragic figure in some ways, because historically, a lot of these dealers, they sacrifice a lot. Honestly, when doing the research for this book, a lot of these dealers are broke. A lot of these dealers are bankrupt, or they get bankrupt, or their son or daughter steals from them, or something happens.
No, we are not talking about such the kind of new contemporary collectors who already built their names and they're already well.
Oh yeah, no, Saatchi and these people, like, they're collectors and they also do a little bit of dealing themselves. But my book is mostly focused on dealers who are like particularly dealers instead of just collectors,
Do you mean that Charles Saatchi, he's not as a dealer? Because he started his career as a dealer and he opened his
the Saatchi Gallery,
the Saatchi Gallery. And even now I know he's one who makes some kind of support some artists, and he's working between high level client and artist.
He's also him and his brother Maurice Saatchi and Saatchi that had the advertising firm, if I'm not mistaken. They also collect art. They're also connected with the House of Lords in the UK. The barons, dukes, earls, all these titles, knights, barons, dames. So they have a collection, and they are dealers in that sense. But my book focuses more on the sort of independent dealer who doesn't really have a collection, but gets art from point A to point B, And it starts off with these like independent dealers in the 1600s, 1500s, 1700s, And then by the middle of the 1800s, we get into the galleries. Galleries, the way we know them today, really kind of got started in like the 1860s, 1870s. In like the
Before it was a studio. Artist had
Pretty
a
much.
studio, and the client or dealer came to the studio, and it was
Right.
exactly in the place.
Exactly. And there wasn't like, nobody had like a solo exhibition in like 1735. It didn't really exist. It was, for a contemporary living artist to have like a solo exhibition in London in these early decades, in these early
I
centuries.
think the wall of Duke, it is a
Yeah.
solo, or it's a group or solo exhibition. It is showing the name, it is showing who is your client. There is an exhibition. So when you come into the castle
Mhm.
and you see the walls with a portrait of the owners or like a family and the name
Mhm.
in the canvas,
Mhm.
showing for the guest who was an artist. So there is an exhibition.
Mhm. Yeah. There's an exhibition. But the way it's talked about is very different. Like, that's like another thing. Like, there's Christie, to go back to him, with his money, another thing that he did, and this is like something very important that the UK does, that London does, that now is just normal to the whole world, is that they take advantage of the printing press, of the media. James Christie in the 1760s, 1770s, the US wasn't even a country. He would put advertisements in the newspapers in London, the Morning Post, the Morning Chronicle. So you would read a newspaper, a magazine, and you can still see them in the digital archive, and you'll see an advertisement for Christie's. Christie will have an auction in, London and King Street on January 15th, and you could go. And that was something that just people didn't do before that.
So it's just he opened the art world for everyone.
Pretty much. And this is something that the UK is entrepreneurial at, because in even in Rembrandt's time, there wasn't really this culture of like, there wasn't really much of an auction culture. There wasn't really, you wouldn't put in the newspaper, I'm gonna be selling my artwork on this day, come by. It just wasn't, it was just word of mouth to people you know.
Interesting. Now everything is changing. So if we count, if we see the auction, it comes from the street to the highest level.
That's right.
So now the artist beginner couldn't be selling from the auction. Before, from the beginning, James Christie, he can sell every artwork which he has. It doesn't matter who was the artist.
Right. He started his career selling furniture.
Yeah, I read about it.
He started selling furniture, clocks, candlesticks.
Everything what was common that time.
Yeah. Chairs, tables, cabinets. So paintings were kind of thrown into this category. Even forks and knives. Sometimes you see these antique, beautiful forks and knives, or a beautiful teapot, these beautiful little cups. That was all part of the inventory. Auctioneering this.
And representation, how he did it, it's very important. What is the main idea and message from your book? To conclusion, I mean.
To conclude, it's understanding that there are many beautiful artworks in the history of art, but behind those beautiful artworks is a network of technicians, dealers, guys loading stuff in ships, people bubbling up the artwork, people talking to ambassadors, to diplomats. The painting is very beautiful, but there's a whole team of people that are making things happen behind it, pulling the strings, getting the painter promoted. That's the story of my book.
It's very interesting. I wish to see it, and I wish to continue our conversation. And welcome to follow Albert and his social media, and write the questions under this video. It will be coming soon. Hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you.
And see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. It was good. I feel like maybe I spoke too much.
No, it's only 30 30 minutes.
Okay.
So we did it perfect on time.
Museum of Human Goals presents
Portrait of Contemporary